I melt with you, your red and my blue. And together we make purple. Maybe I'm indecisive, so I need someone decisive. That's my blue and your red. Maybe I'm more introverted, you're more extroverted. In theory, it sounds like we would balance each other out, right? I bring some qualities, you bring others, we come together, we create something beautiful. And we really romanticize this idea of melting together in our culture, in our media. But this is also a trap that we can easily fall into again and again in relationships that leads to disappointment. This metaphor that Olivia Rodrigo has used in her song Purple is genius for a lot of reasons. We'll get into them. But it's also the key to understanding what is the cure? And that's the question we have, right? Like, if it's not the other person, if it's not a relationship, even a happy relationship, then what is the cure? How do I find it? Today, we're exploring this question. We're going to analyze this song Purple. We're going to talk about what the colors actually represent and also what this whole thing teaches us about ourselves and our relationships. This song is literally in the center of the album. You seem pretty sad for a girl so in love. It is central to the album and to these themes. Just in case you're new, I am Vicky. I'm a therapist who loves talking about pop music. Let's get into it. So the song kind of starts off in awe. We live this whole life before we even meet the person that we're in a relationship with. And there's an almost magical sort of meeting of the past and the present. You look into the eyes of your partner and you sort of see all the past versions of them. And it is kind of crazy. It's like I see these pictures of you before you even knew I existed. And now it feels like you're my whole world and I'm yours. I used to be a tourist in your world and now it feels like home. Now we're sharing a home. You kiss my neck is this really intimate imagery of two souls moving closer together. To have your paths intersect in this physical, emotional, perhaps even spiritual, depending on how you feel, way can be really exciting. It can be exhilarating. It can even feel like I'm paranoid that I made you up because it's almost too good to be true that it would feel so amazing to connect in this way. This is the carve our names into the car seat leather moment where you just want to hold on to this initial excitement. But it does not last, and you can hear it. There's a little bit of dissonance when she sings the word circle. It's the same musical dissonance that you hear on the word purple as well. And this dissonance is foreshadowing that what we imagine to be this seamless, perfect melting with each other is actually not going to be as smooth or as seamless as we imagine it to be. So your red and my blue melt together. What do these colors actually represent? This might look like I lack confidence, so I'm drawn to someone who seems confident. I'm indecisive, so I need someone who's decisive, who's assertive. I'm responsible, so I need someone who's rebellious or spontaneous. I'm emotionally contained, so I choose someone who's emotionally expressive. I'm really masculine, so I need someone really feminine. I'm really emotional, so I choose someone who's really logical, or I'm really logical and I choose someone who's really emotional. These colors are really just placeholders for qualities. You might identify with red for one of these or blue for the other, and there are a million other examples that don't even fit here. But the point is that the colors represent parts of ourselves. And we tell ourselves, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, that because I've got this puzzle piece, this other kind of puzzle piece, sometimes on the same spectrum, opposite ends of the same spectrum, is the puzzle piece that I need. So psychologically, we're drawn to something that represents something going on internally. And on some level, it feels good to have that other quality nearby. Like if you're really introverted, on some level, might feel good to have an extrovert nearby. If you find it hard to be assertive, it can feel good to have someone who's assertive nearby. If you're really self-critical, you find it hard to be compassionate with yourself, it can feel really good to have someone who's being compassionate with you. And kind of like in Honeybee, everything I own just feels like ours. This can happen emotionally too. You get this sort of feeling that oh, I become a little more extroverted when I'm around you, or I become a little more compassionate with myself when I'm around you. It can feel like there's a sort of melting that feels needed psychologically, and it feels good. But the musical dissonance on the word purple when she sings purple shows that it's not a true melting. It can never be a true melting together because you can't melt together two paints that are on two different surfaces. As much as I would like and as much as I try to make another person's red melt with my blue, it's not going to work because I am still going to be missing red internally. And the way the problem might manifest is that this exact quality that we idealize, we really love in the other person at the beginning of the relationship might be the exact thing that starts to annoy us later. Like you might say, well, I'm blue, I'm very critical of myself, so I need someone who is going to be gentle and compassionate with me. You might find at some point you start to get really annoyed with them, thinking, oh, they're being too gentle. They just don't get it. Or they're being too kind. Or sometimes you might misinterpret what they're saying as being critical, even though they're not intending to be critical. Your relationship to that person's red is just going to tap into whatever you haven't healed internally in terms of the red. Because so often the thing that you need in your life, the thing you need to work on, you need to heal, is going to be the thing that you are attracted to out in the world, attracted to in other people. Another example of getting frustrated or annoyed with the other person is that we might say, well, I'm very emotional. That's my blue. So I need someone who's very logical, more stoic. And maybe that has positive aspects because it makes you feel like they ground you in reality. They're there to sort of calm your emotions. But it could also backfire because it might mean they have a lower tolerance for emotions, for their own and also yours. So there will always be pros and cons if you haven't sort of worked through them in yourself. The cure is dealing with, processing, working to heal your relationship with your internal red, whatever the red means for you, because we all have the capacity for all of these qualities. It's just about which ones are the underdeveloped ones, which one is your vulnerability that is linked to what you're attracted to in other people. Because what the mind loves to do is it loves to disown that part, disengage with it, project it onto other people, have other people be that quality for us. And the way you develop your sense of self is to reclaim the red, to stop putting it on the other person, seeing it only in the other person, and to start seeing it within yourself, taking ownership of it. Whatever it is, like good or bad, it can be qualities like compassion. A lot of us struggle to take ownership of our own compassion. We sort of hear compassion in the form of other people's voices, like we need someone external to us to compliment us, to give us confidence. But then you end up relying on the other person to carry that for you. And because you haven't done the internal work, you might get annoyed because it's still a point of vulnerability. It's still a point of frustration for you. This is why the color purple here is genius. Olivia's first two albums were purple, which correctly indicates that she has had both red and blue within her this whole time. Olivia has had the tools to create purple within herself even before this relationship. We all have all of these qualities within us. It's just that some are less developed than others. And this is why the other person's red cannot stitch you up. You have to find your own internal red thread, like in the Cure music video, in order to make your own purple so that you feel more whole, you feel more like you have a sense of self, you feel more stable within that self. Always relying on the other person to hold the red for you is like speeding down the boulevard without a brake and expecting to use another car's brake when you need it, which, yeah, is going to feel amazing and free temporarily, but at some point you're going to need a brake and it's going to need to be inside your own car. And another issue with this setup, if you see the relationship as I bring the blue, they bring the red, then you may always feel like you're this little red thread on another person's red shirt because you don't have your own red shirt. Or rather, you do, but it's just really hidden deep down into your closet, or you haven't had the chance to create it, to sew it yet. Here is where I can actually offer some hope. If your partner has the red shirt, maybe they're the rebellious one, and that's a quality in yourself that you have disowned, you don't identify with, but a part of you is kind of curious, maybe kind of attracted to it. Maybe you want to develop it or form a better relationship with it. Having a red shirt next to you can actually be helpful, because in a way you can borrow a red thread from their shirt in order to start sewing your own shirt. For example, you might observe them in their rebellious nature and sort of take notes and sort of reflect on what aspects of that you like, what aspects you don't like. Maybe start to experiment with a little bit of rebellion in small and safe ways, in your own ways. And the more sort of comfortable and playful you get with that quality within yourself, you might start relying less on them to sort of do that for you or do that for the relationship. You might even notice that you get less annoyed at them for it because you're sort of more accepting of it within yourself. Now, there's something really beautiful and really symbolic about a pair of shoes coming in doubles. I mean, to think of a pair of shoes that have walked all over the US, for example, and then another pair of shoes that have walked all over the UK, and suddenly they find themselves in the same house, on the same floor, next to each other. There is something poetic and beautiful about that. But if this coming together happens to an extreme degree, you might start to lose sight of what's yours and what's mine. Like, what are your shoes versus my shoes, so to speak. You might let go of your big dreams or distance yourself from your friend group who you're hanging out with. And this is where the pair of shoes is actually really useful imagery, because they are separate. What's beautiful about that imagery is that there are still individual pairs. In relationships, we have these conflicting needs. We want to connect, but we also want to be individuals. And honestly, we need both of those things. We need some sense of togetherness. Otherwise, there's no relationship, there's no intimacy. But you need to maintain some sense of autonomy where you're not losing yourself, what makes you you. So paradoxically, we actually need to get more comfortable in our aloneness, in our sense of separateness, of individuality, so that we can show up in the relationship as like a more fully formed self. And I don't mean separateness in terms of emotional distance from the other person. It's not about less intimacy with the other person. It's about more intimacy with yourself, more connectedness to, yeah, what do I want out of life? What are my dreams? Who am I? And this bridge just captures the issue perfectly. What happens when you get so close that you can't go back? What happens when you get too attached? Well, it's going to feel black. Not because there aren't any colors, but you haven't mixed the colors in the right place. You've tried to mix an internal blue with an external red. It just doesn't work that way. You need to find the internal red. And we romanticize the idea of being so in love that you lose your mind. You lose yourself until you've got maggots for brains. But to be in an authentic relationship, you do need your brain. You need your mind. Like, don't lose it. You do need that sense of self. You need a stronger sense of self so that you don't melt into blackness and you end up feeling flat. In Maggots for Brain, she captures how we tell ourselves that we need the other person to be present. Otherwise, the colors feel flat. Like when my baby is away, the colors feel flat. But here we realize the other person's red is not the cure. You're still going to feel flat even if you have the other person's red, because what's missing is my own red, my own relationship with red. And whatever that quality is that you want to have in close proximity in another person, having that quality close but external can very much lead you to feel both overwhelmed and underfed. Like she says in the song Begged, it might feel like there's too much red, you're overwhelmed by the red because you haven't learned how to manage it well. And at the same time, it will feel like too little red because you haven't developed enough of it internally. So you might be overwhelmed by your partner's red, but then feel underfed emotionally within yourself until you end up looking at the other person and saying, I think you are what's wrong with me. Your red is what's wrong with me, not because there's anything wrong with red or your red, but because red indicates my own vulnerability that is playing out in the relationship dynamics. So the cure is finding and dealing with your own red, whatever red may be. Not so that you never need another person. It's natural to want to connect with other people, to need other people. We are social beings, but so that when you do connect with him, you can do so more authentically. Because if you have a better relationship with your own blue and your own red, you're going to be able to offer purple to the relationship. You can offer so much more. So, optional exercise. Find a quality that you are drawn to in romantic partners that is either underdeveloped in you or sort of highlights some sort of vulnerability in you. What does that say about you? Do you expect them to be confident and assertive? You don't want them to be passive? What does that say about your relationship to being assertive versus passive? Do you find one of those harder than the other? Do you expect your partner to be one of those in a way so that you don't have to, so that you don't have to face what it feels like to be that? And sometimes it helps to kind of flip it around too. Like, would you want to date someone who says, well, I'm indecisive. Like, I'm never going to be decisive. So I need you to be the decisive one. Or I'm really passive, so I need you to be assertive. I'm never going to be assertive. Even if they don't say that to you directly, you might feel that on some level. And maybe it's a weight that you are happy to carry, but it is a weight that you carry for the other person. And it is normal to sometimes carry emotional weight for each other. That's totally normal in relationships. Even in a happy or a healthy dynamic, relationships are give and take. But if you start to notice the sort of friction or a dissonance like we hear musically in a certain area, that can be a sign that your inner red or your inner blue is sort of calling out to you and indicating that there's something to work on there. Let me know if you enjoyed this. I'm going to link my playlist with all my Olivia videos right here and in the description below. Thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you soon.